When I first got together with Shaniqua, neither of us had much. We were both living in what we perceived to be the bottom. Our goals didn't extend much past having a decent place to stay and fresh clothes to wear. Then my situation changed, and I suddenly had resources at my disposal. A lot of resources. And I wanted to share them with Shaniqua. We weren't together anymore, but she was the mother of my son. She was with me before the fame, and I acknowledged and respected that. She saw me rise, and I wanted to help her find her own success. With that in mind, I would ask her, what you want to do with your life? Did she want to go to school? Did she want to learn interior design? Fashion? I kept asking her to identify the occupation that would provide her with some kind of purpose that could provide both wealth and personal satisfaction. Not only would this be good for her personally, but I also wanted our son to be raised by someone who had a career of her own. But no matter how many times I asked, Shaniqua never had an answer for me. I'd bring up different possibilities and scenarios, but there was never a connection. It was incredibly frustrating. I didn't like sending a check every month to someone who didn't seem to have any interest in working. She might as well have been on welfare back in the hood. The only difference here was she was getting a bigger check from me than she would have from Uncle Sam. It finally came to a head one day when I was visiting her and Marquise one weekend. So what do you want to do? I asked her once again. She looked at me, rolled her eyes, and said, ain't nobody working if they don't have to. Oh shit, I sputtered. I suspected people thought that way, but no one had been ill enough to actually say it out loud in front of me. You already did it, she said firmly. So why should I have to do it too? I'm good. I don't mean to sound dramatic, but it was one of the most shocking conversations of my life. And I've had a lot of conversations people would consider shocking. I'm extremely serious about the value of hard work. I believe it creates not only success, but happiness too. You can never feel satisfied if you're not applying yourself to something you feel passionate about. When Shaniqua said, ain't nobody work if they don't have to, it was like she was dismissing everything I believed in. At that moment, I knew things would never be right between us. We just saw the world different ways. I was disgusted that she didn't want to work, and she was disgusted that I thought she should. I understand that she had the responsibility of raising our son largely on her own. I tried to apply less pressure on her when he was younger because of that. But once he was in his teens and didn't need someone holding his hand every second, I hoped Shaniqua would finally start to show some ambition. There was a period where she made some noise about getting into real estate. I thought that was a great idea. Atlanta was a growing market, and I offered to pay for the classes she would need to get her license. But after a few months, it was clear that the passion wasn't there. She wasn't excited walking into a house for her first time and envisioning all the possibilities for it, or by taking her older property, fixing it up, and flipping it for a profit. She just liked that being a real estate agent was something you could do from home. Of course, nothing ever happened. Looking back, I can see that the moment Shaniqua said, ain't nobody working if they don't have to, is when our relationship hit the point of no return. Up until then, I had visions that we could still fashion some sort of partnership. Maybe not romantically, but at least as parents with a common goal. A business we could start that would benefit our son down the road. When it was clear that she not only did not share that vision, but was actually offended by it, my attitude towards her completely changed. I became petty. It was like I was a fitness buff and she was obese. Every time she picked up another proverbial cookie, I'd be like, damn, you really need that cookie? It's just gonna go straight to your hips. I was barely conscious of it, but I was being mean in the hope it would embarrass her into some sort of action. It had the opposite effect, though. The more I homed in on her lack of hustle, the more she began to resent me. The resentment kept building up between us until it matured into hate, a hate that is still present to this day. What's upsetting isn't that our relationship has become so toxic, but that she passed that sense of resentment and entitlement along to our son. He'd been given every advantage in the world, far beyond most kids born in the ghetto, but he still feels like he's been somehow cheated or robbed by me. It's a scenario I never imagined I'd find myself in with my firstborn child. But here we are. Entitlement creates resentment. There have been a lot of disappointing moments in my relationship with Marquise over the past few years. But the lowest was when I saw him post a picture of himself with Kyle McGriff, the son of Kenneth Supreme McGriff. Without rehashing too much bad history, Kenneth McGriff was one of the biggest drug dealers in Queens, and the man the authorities believe was behind the attempt on my life. So by posing with his son, Marquise was basically co-signing an individual who might have tried to have his father killed. I had known Marquise resented me for a while, but I never imagined he would hate me so much that he'd allow himself to be used as a prop by my enemy. Someone recently sent me a quote from Benjamin Franklin that really resonated with me. Franklin's son had sided with the British in the Revolutionary War, despite the fact that his father was one of the leaders of the revolution. It messed with Ben Franklin for the rest of his life. He wrote, "Nothing has ever hurt me so much and affected me with such keen sensation as to find myself deserted in my old age by my only son, and not only deserted, but to find him taking up arms against me, and a cause wherein my good fame, fortune, and life were all at stake." Marquise might not have been literally taking up arms against me, but he was standing next to the son of someone who might have. I could recognize Franklin's pain. I spent a lot of time searching my soul, trying to understand what could make a son forsake his father like that. I've tried to put myself in Marquise's shoes. Just as he doesn't know what it's like to grow up under the circumstances I did, I don't know what it was like to grow up as the son of 50 Cent. Certainly on the surface, he had everything he wanted. But there must have been pressures and insecurities from being my son that I can't identify with. I accept that. I still can't see how those pressures and insecurities would force a child to go against his own father, especially a father who has provided everything for him. As I go over our relationship in my mind, the only answer that I can come up with is that I actually might have done too much for Marquise. How do you make a privileged child feel deprived or angry? I guess by getting him whatever he wants. I don't think he's accepted that no matter all our ups and downs, I still have his best interests at heart. There's nothing that would make me feel better than to see him blossom. No Grammy, no Emmy, no picture on the cover of Forbes would mean more to me than seeing my son turn into the person I believe he can be.